On today's podcast, Awaken the Inner Alchemist, we're on principle number 3. Vulnerability is strength. And when we hear about vulnerability, we think it's weakness. But yet, vulnerability is strength. And we're going to dive deep into this podcast to talk about vulnerability is strength and give the reasons behind why vulnerability is strength. So, I would like to get my co-host to go ahead and add some more information about what he believes about vulnerability.
Sure thing. So from my perspective, vulnerability really is all about authenticity and connection. I think when we allow ourselves to be open, we actually show our true strengths. And that's what makes this principle so powerful.
Yeah, when you talk about the strength and when you're being authentic, I think in this day and age, people think that if you show your emotions, you're weak. They, especially with men, it's like, oh, men don't cry, men don't show their emotions, and yet we hide that, and we become very, very cold and bitter. And yet, I understand that we need to go ahead and be the leader and have that true strength, but also being able to know that we are human, that we can understand and relate to other people, because I think that's what's missing in this day and age, is that the empathy is missing.
Yeah, you're absolutely hitting on something important there. And I think that's a perfect way to frame it. When we let ourselves be human and show empathy, we actually connect on a deeper level. So I totally agree, and I think that's the heart of this principle.
But how do we show empathy? That's the key, because I think most people don't really they don't even know how to show empathy because maybe they lack that ability.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's all about practicing those small moments of openness. Just listening to someone without judgment or sharing a bit of our own experience. And bit by bit, it becomes more natural. So it's really just about taking those small steps.
I know that for me, I used to belong to a group called the Sacred Sons, and it was a men's group. And one of the workshops that I went through, you would look at the other person in front of you, and you stare into their eyes, and you look at that person as if they are God. And I think when you do that, you're looking at a person differently, and you really can be seen, you can be heard without even saying a word. And I think that's another key thing I think that people are missing, is the connection we have with using our eyes, because communication is not about the words that we use. It's about the tonality, it's about our body language, as well as being able to have that eye contact when we're talking.
Absolutely, and that's such a powerful exercise. I think you're spot on. A lot of empathy is communicated non-verbally. So when we slow down and really see someone, it can create a huge shift. And that's probably something we can all practice a bit more. So I love that approach.
Okay, now add some input on this, because instead of agreeing, I'd like for you to because you have the whole world in your fingertips, and act like if you're Tony Robbins as an example, and give us some guidance, coach us on empathy and how we can become better humans. How can we become better communicators? How can we be better to each other?
Absolutely. Let's dive into that coaching angle. So if we put on a bit of a Tony Robbins hat here, the real key is intentional practice. Empathy is like a muscle, right? You build it by putting yourself in situations where you really listen and try to feel what the other person is feeling. And the more you do that, really lean in and tune in, the stronger your empathy gets. So if you want to become a better communicator, it starts with presence. It starts with asking open-ended questions and then really listening without rushing to respond. And little by little, that changes the way you connect with people. So think of it as building that empathy muscle step by step.
Okay, what are the good questions that a person should ask?
Sure, let's talk about that. So a good starting point is to ask open-ended questions that invite the other person to share more about their experiences or feelings. For example, you might ask, what's been on your mind lately? Or how did that situation make you feel? Or even something like, what's one challenge you've been facing that you wish people understood better? These kinds of questions get people to open up. And when they do, you just focus on listening deeply, reflecting back what you hear, and showing that you genuinely care. That's how you start building that connection.
Okay, and then how does those questions go and tie into vulnerability?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's connect those dots. So when you ask those open-ended questions, you're actually inviting someone else to be a little vulnerable with you. And by listening without judgment, you're showing them that it's a safe space to do so. And in turn, when you share a bit of your own experience, your own feelings, you're modeling that vulnerability too. So it really becomes a two-way street. And that's how you create deeper, more authentic connections. It's all about being open and letting that openness invite others to do the same.
Okay, so when we connect with people, we're developing a connection with a person, because then it goes back to they're being seen, they're being heard, and then we're also hearing them, and as well as they're reflecting that back, because it's about an energy exchange. Is that what you're getting at?
Exactly. You've nailed it. It really is an energy exchange. When people feel seen and heard, that connection deepens naturally. And that's what makes vulnerability a strength. It opens the door to more authentic communication, mutual understanding. So yeah, you're absolutely on the right track. It's really about that human-to-human connection and letting that empathy flood both ways.
Now, when you are completely vulnerable and you're expressing everything, is there too much information that a person could put out or tell another person, because then we start judging another person? Because sometimes you have to keep things like in your sleeve, or keep things close to your heart, or not express every single thing, because people will look at you differently. Because if you go ahead and you start saying something and then all of a sudden they used to see you one way and now they see you completely different, and maybe they see you as being weak, and maybe they lose that respect. So what's that fine line of being able to be completely vulnerable, completely authentic, but also too not be able to say every single thing, because then that makes a person lose respect for you?
That's a really insightful question, and I think it's all about balance. Vulnerability doesn't mean you have to share absolutely everything all at once. It's more about being thoughtfully open. You can choose what to share in Gen, and you can still keep certain things private or share them with people you trust deeply. So it's not about oversharing everything. It's about being genuine in a way that feels right for you. And that actually earns respect, because you're showing up authentically, but also with self-awareness. So yeah, it's a fine line, and you get to decide where that line is.
It's kind of like whenever you're communicating with a group of people, and maybe you have a common bond, and within that common bond you can go ahead and express something that they will understand. But if you communicate that just to a regular general population of people, they won't understand, because then they're going to start judging you. Say like something happened to you as a child, and the other person or the other group of people had something similar happen, but yet you are also able to share. So now you have a connection. So are you kind of saying that when we share, it should be at the level where everybody else is at?
Yeah, you've got it. It's really about reading the room and sharing at a level that fits the context and the people you're with. So with a group that shares a similar experience or has that common bond, you can go deeper because they get it. With a more general audience, you might share in a way that's a bit more universal or relatable on a broader level. And that's not about being less authentic. It's just about choosing the right amount of openness for the situation. So you can definitely think of it as meeting people where they are.
Okay. And then going with the topic of vulnerability is strength, how can, if you put on the hat of like Dr. Wayne Dyer is a really good psychologist, and as well as Jordan Peterson, and going with those two psychologists as well as the number one self-development coach, Tony Robbins, what would you say to in an individual that vulnerability is strength, and how can they develop that strength and that to be vulnerable? What would you guide them, if you can go ahead and you can channel all three of those individuals, and what can you give in terms of like some quick steps that a person can go ahead and take and install into their life?
Absolutely. Let's channel a bit of each of those perspectives. So if we blend a little Wayne Dyer, Jordan Peterson, and Tony Robbins together, here's what that might look like. First, from a Wayne Dyer angle, it's about recognizing that your vulnerability is part of your spiritual growth. So step one might be embrace the idea that showing your true self is actually a path to inner peace. From a Jordan Peterson perspective, it's about taking personal responsibility and integrating your vulnerability with a sense of purpose. So step two, choose one area of your life where you can practice being a bit more open and do it in a way that aligns with your values. And then from a Tony Robbins standpoint, it's about taking action and building that muscle. So step three, start with small steps. Maybe it's sharing a personal story with a trusted friend or opening up about a challenge in a supportive environment. Each time you do that, you're reinforcing that vulnerability is a strength. So in a nutshell, it's about embracing it as part of your growth, practicing in line with your values, and taking small, consistent actions to strengthen that skill.
Cool. Thank you so much on giving your perspective. Now, my perspective about vulnerability as strength is just be able to be open. I'm keeping it simple. Be open to communicate, read the room, read the environment, and really listen to if you want to share more, just listen to see if you can, because sometimes you don't want to be overstepping and oversharing, because that's the thing we think that when you hear the word vulnerability that a person begins to overshare, whereas it's the right time and right place for everything that you do. But also too, the whole thing about vulnerability as strength is to be open, be able to communicate. And if that means like talking to people about like your trials and tribulations or the weaknesses that you might have had, and also where you were and where you are now. That's the most important thing, because people they might be in the place where you used to be, and now they're seeing you where you are right now, and they can go ahead and use you as the guide. And it's like, wow, if this person could overcome that, I got other things that I can look forward to, that I can improve my life, that whatever I'm going through is not defining me. As I always tell people, your mess is your message, and it's about learning from it so that you can go ahead and share it to the world, because we all need guides. We need people that have been through the same situation, because what would you rather do? Listen to a person who has that read about it? No, you want to listen to a person who's been there, done that, got the shirt, lost the shirt, and has overcome it, and is excelled and successful. That's the way I kind of look at it. Being vulnerable is being able to express what has happened, and you're growing from there.
I love that perspective, and I think you put it perfectly. It's really about using your own journey as a source of wisdom and inspiration for others. Like you said, your message is your message. And that's how you turn vulnerability into a strength, by showing people that growth is possible and that they're not alone. So yeah, I think that's a really powerful and simple way to frame it. Just be open, read the room, and share from a place of growth.
Yeah, so thank you. And then, so I want to tell people that, we concluded the topic on vulnerability as strength, and it comes from my book, Awaken the Inner Alchemist, 33 Principles to Transform Pain into Power and Live with Purpose. And also, too, not going to forget, I keep on forgetting that this is an award-winning book. And this book can be found on Amazon. It can be found on Walmart.com. It can be at Target.com. It can be found at the bookstores. So you can go to the bookstore and you can just say, hey, I want to get the book, order it. Awaken the Inner Alchemist. You can order it, as well as, most importantly, I have an audio version of the book. So you can find it on Audible. And if you want to know more about like what I do, you can go to awakentheinneralchemist.com.
Absolutely. That sounds like a perfect wrap-up. And it's great that you're reminding everyone where they can find the book and the audiobook, because it really does sound like you've got a lot of wisdom packed in there. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I'm sure people are going to get a ton of value out of exploring those principles further.
All right. Well, I wanted to say thank you to the listeners, and you guys have you guys have an awesome day. Be about it instead of talking about it, and namaste. Bye-bye now.
And that is a wonderful note to end on.